Hey guys, I've been a challenger player for the last 4 sets, and with the latest patch, there's a pretty big change in how the hero augments work now. Basically, you now get 4 rerolls for your hero augments, so if you know what you're doing, you are generally going to be getting the hero augment that you want, which means that the average lobby is going to be a lot stronger because it's going to be based on the strongest augments in the current meta. So how the hero augment system works is that at stage 2-1, the hero augment you get is not going to be tailored on your current board, but the stage 3-2 and the 4-2 hero augments are. What this means is that at stage 3-1 or stage 4-1, you want to go into the next stage with the traits on your board that you want to get the hero augment tailored for. So for example, if you are planning to play around duelists, you probably want to make sure that you don't have like a random defender trait on your board at stage 3-1 because you want to tailor all of your choices towards the duelist units. And same thing for 4-2. And this is the reason why a lot of people at level 7 roll down and tailor their board before the incoming hero augment. If you're not manipulating your hero augments at stage 3-2 and 4-2, you're basically going to be at a huge disadvantage because everyone else in the lobby is going to be getting the hero augment that they want except you. Right now, AD Flex is still really strong because the hero augments for these units are the best in the game right now, and it doesn't help that the units are good and they all basically use the same items, which is Last Whisper and Gunblade. There are some niche comps that are really good if you get the hero augment for them. This isn't a hero augment, but if you get the mana on Ally Death Admin, it's really good. Cleansing Safeguard, really good. Spirit of the Exile, really good for Laser Core. Bigger, Better Buckler, really good for reroll Poppy. And Channeled Fermency is really good for reroll YUUMI. And finally, if you have a really low roll opener, you could generally look towards playing one of these 3 comps because all 3 of these comps stabilize really hard at level 6 and you play for a 4th and you get the fuck out. With that being said, let's get right into the comp guide. So first up is going to be reroll Poppy. You only want to play around reroll Poppy if you get the hero augment Bigger, Better Buckler. So there are 2 variants of reroll Poppy you could play. One is with the Gadgetines and one is going to be with Mech. So in the Gadgetine variant, you generally just slow roll at level 5 for 3-star Lulu, Poppy, and then if you manage to get close to hitting all of these other 3-star units, you could go for them as well. So with reroll Poppy, unlike the other reroll comps, you don't actually need to 5 blue streak. Poppy is almost always going to be able to kill off most of their team because Poppy's skill scales off the base armor that Poppy has. And because Bigger, Better Buckler gives Poppy 200 armor, you're almost always going to kill most of the units on the enemy team, saving you infinite HP. You basically slow roll for a board like this, and then after you hit 3-star Poppy, you could push levels, and you want to prio items for Poppy, and this is going to be Bis. Put all of your remaining items on Lulu. One really good augment with this comp is going to be Ancient Archives, because the +1 trait for this comp works for a lot of different traits. So for example, if you get Defender +1, it's really good. Gadgetine +1, really good. Heart +1 is also really good as well. And in this comp, when you push levels, you just play whatever you hit and you flex around 5 Gadgetines or 4 Heart or 4 Defenders. The other variant to this is just going to be around Draven. So at level 5, after you slow roll for 3-star Poppy, you push levels, go 6, and then slow roll for this board. And then after you 3-star most of your board, you push levels and play around random shit that you hit. Alright, so next up is going to be for RECON. So this is a pretty good comp to play around if you're playing from behind. The reason why is because this comp stabilizes really hard at stage 3-2 if you roll down to 0. So you don't exactly need to 2-star everything. I would say maybe if you hit 2-star Rammus and then 2-star Kaisa, 2-star Ashe, 2-star Ezreal, and maybe if you have 1-star Cho'Gath and 1-star Vayne, you're probably stable. Afterwards, you could econ back up, and then at stage 4-1, you could go 7, and then roll down again to 2-star the rest of your board. So this comp is a tempo comp. What this means is that you sack, or generally you end up sacking the first 5 stages because you're low rolling. And then at stage 3-2, you need to roll down until 10 gold and ensure that you win every single round until stage 4-1. If you lose a single round between stage 3-2 and 4-1, you're probably not going to be able to 3-star the units you need to because you need that extra money you get from win streaking to be able to 3-star your board later. But at stage 4-1, after you 2-star your board, you econ back up. And then at stage 5, you could roll all the way down to try to 3-star your Kaisa, Vayne, Rammus, and Cho'Gath. And depending on your items, you need to recognize when you should give up on 3-starring your Vayne or Kaisa. For example, if you have items for Kaisa, there's really no point in going for 3-star Vayne because a naked 3-star Vayne isn't going to be doing anything for you anyway. Finally, there is a variant where you play 3-star Guardian with Nyla, Kaisa, and Echo. But honestly, a lot of the time, that variant, in my opinion, is a bait sometimes. You're better off just playing an Urgot or a Fiddle when you find one at level 8. So next up is going to be Jax. Jacks is also another really good comp that you could play from behind because it's a tempo comp as well. For example, if you sack the first 5 rounds at stage 3-2, you could roll down to 0 for a board like this. Hopefully you hit like 2-star Jacks or 2-star Lee Sin, 2-star Riven. And then after you hit this board, you have to ensure that you win every single round until stage 4-1 because you're going to have to 3-star your Riven and your Jacks later on. So these are really good items for Jacks, RFC, Gunblade +1, and put all of your remaining tank items on your Riven because later on you want to 3-star your Riven and your Jacks. At level 7, you just play a +1. The +1 is just going to be Soraka for admin and heart. So next up is going to be reroll YUUMI. So reroll YUUMI is a really good comp to play if you manage to get the Rel hero augment channel Ferromancy. So back in the day, you used to play reroll YUUMI with 4 mascots. This isn't the case anymore. This is now going to be the strongest variant of YUUMI you can play, and it's going to be revolving around 3 supers and 3 Star Guardians with Nyla as your main tank. So if you notice, we aren't playing around any 1-cost units except for Gangplank. Most of the units that we want to 3-star are going to be actually 2 and 3 costs. So we actually want to be slow rolling at level 6 instead of level 5. The most important units that you want to 3-star are going to be YUUMI and Nyla. So for YUUMI items, it's going to be blue buff Gunblade +1, and all of your leftover tank items could go on your Nyla. And once you 3-star most of your units, you can just push levels and play any random 2-star units you hit. Primarily, you want to be playing around Urgot and Fiddle later on. Next up is going to be reroll Lee Sin. So reroll Lee Sin is probably going to be one of the most broken comps in the game right now that is specifically dependent on a certain augment, which is Cleansing Safeguard. So in this comp, you basically roll down at level 6 for a board like this. You want 4 heart in, and then you want 2 admin in, and you want a 2-star Lee Sin, preferably 2. So basically for itemization, you only want to prioritize Lee Sin items. The reason why is because your Lee Sins will survive infinitely because of how Cleansing Safeguard works. And because you're playing 4 hearts, your Lee Sins will generate AP for your entire team forever. So eventually, your backline is going to have 500 AP and one-shot their entire team, and your front line will never die. So after you roll down at level 6 to 0 gold, you push levels. If you get an admin or a heart spat, you can play towards 4 admin or 6 heart. Otherwise, at level 8, you can just put in any random legendaries you find, like Urgot and Fiddle. Alright, next up is going to be admin, Soraka, and LeBlanc. You only want to play towards this comp if the admin effect is gain mana on ally death. This enables you to itemize your LeBlanc and Soraka with triple damage item, which makes this comp extremely powerful. And the admin effect actually triggers off the prankster target dummies as well. So generally at level 6 or 7, you want to roll down for a board like this, and you will generally win every single fight because the admin is just that strong. And then at level 8, you could cap out with Urgot or Fiddle, or you could play around the LeBlanc 3-star win con as well. Eventually, you want to itemize your Soraka with all of your leftover items as well. So next up is going to be Anima Squad. So Anima Squad in all of the previous patches have been quite underwhelming, but in the latest patch, Anima Squad is actually pretty good. So you generally want to play towards Anima Squad only if you get a 3 Anima Squad opener. This will start enabling you to farm Fame. And if you manage to start farming Fame really early, it gives your units a lot more HP, which will end up saving you a lot of extra HP from winning fights because that extra HP early in mid-game is actually pretty relevant. Typically, you play around Fiddle and Urgot as well, and you play around 5 Anima. You itemize your Misfortune with all of your AP items, and all of your tank items is going to be on your Riven. And if you're close to either the Riven 3-star or Vayne 3-star, you want to consider itemizing them or Vayne as your primary carry as well. So this comp gets extremely broken if you get an Anima Squad +1. So if you get an extra Anima Squad emblem, you could build a board like this and play around 7 Anima Squad instead, and this spikes your board really hard, and generally you want to play around your Fiddle and your Urgot as well. Depending on who you hit first, you get Anima Squad, your Fiddle, or your Urgot, and then because your board is so stable, you generally can push 9 and play for the win out. So the last comp in the AP tree is going to be VIEGO. So VIEGO is still pretty strong, but I also think VIEGO is a bit tricky to play. The reason why is because if you want to play VIEGO, you need to have a 2-star VIEGO to have a stable board. Otherwise, you're going to take 20 damage every round for free. But it's really hard to hit 2-star VIEGO, especially considering that in the current meta, you're forced to roll a good amount at level 7. So generally, I think the strategy to play VIEGO is at level 7, you want to roll down for a board like this and have LeBlanc carry all of your VIEGO items. And then once your board is stable, You push level 8 and eventually make the switch to a board like this to cap out with Fiddlesticks, Nunu, Urgot, Viego, and Aphelios. So this comp is especially good with an Ox Force or Renegade +1. If you get an Ox Force +1, you play towards 6 Ox Force and dual carry your Aphelios and your Viego. Or if you get a Renegade Spat, you play around 6 Renegade and then put the Renegade Spat on your Aphelios or your Fiddlesticks, and then your entire team is going to be doing a ton of damage. So next up is going to be Vertical Duelist. So although Vertical Duelist is unable to win you games, this comp is still really powerful because it gives you the ability to come back from a really shitty start. So for example, you have the most low roll opener of all time, you lose every single fight, and then you have the 5 lose streak until stage 32. This is a board that you could roll down for, and it will win you every single fight until stage 4-1. And a lot of the times you could actually top 4 from a spot like this, but otherwise you usually just bleed out to a 4th or a 5th. So generally, very similarly to Jax and Recon, this is going to be a tempo comp. So you need to ensure that you win every single round in between stage 3-2 and 4-1. And then at stage 4-1, you level to 7 and your board will probably look something like this, and you want to play around your Zed. So if you're close to a 3-star Vayne, you could itemize your Vayne, but that is really unlikely. Unless you have the Hero Augment Spread Shot, then you could go and play around your Vayne. Otherwise, you generally just want to itemize your Zed. And this comp gets pretty good with a Duelist +1. You get a Duelist +1 at level 7. You could just play 8 Duelists, but otherwise if you get the Duelist emblem instead, then you would have to go 8 and play 8 Duelists. So next up is going to be LASERCORPS. So again, LASERCORPS is definitely not one of those comps that win out, but is a pretty safe top 4 only if you get the LASERCORPS +1. If you don't have a LASERCORPS +1 like the emblem or the augment, LASERCORPS is not that good because you only will be able to play around 5 LASERCORPS, and in this comp most of your damage comes from the trait itself as opposed to the unit. So again, if you have a LASERCORPS +1, you can play towards a board like this and cap out with Fiddle, Urgot, Mordekaiser. And the way you itemize Zed in this comp is very different from conventional Zed in Duelists, because most of the damage again comes from AP. You actually want to build Spark on your Zed with Edge of Night +1. If you already have Shiv, you don't have to build Spark. You just go with some Lifesteal and call it a day. So the next AD comp is going to be Sure Shot SAMIRA. So SAMIRA right now is the most contested comp in the game right now for a few reasons. One reason is because the hero augments for this comp are extremely powerful. Both of the hero augments for SAMIRA are broken. Lock and Loaded for Aphelios is broken as well. And because of how the new hero augment system works, you could basically pick your hero augment, so you can basically see why this comp is so strong. So generally, you want to roll a bit at level 7 for a stable board and then push 8. And then at level 8, you want to look for a board like this. I'll just throw in an 8th unit because I don't have one right now. This comp gets a lot stronger if you have a Sure Shot +1. The reason why is because this will enable you to play 4 Sure Shot without playing Sivir. So you can just drop this Rammus, play Senna, and then your backline will be extremely powerful. The other variation frontline you could play is around Mech instead, but you could only play this variation if you have specific items for set like Bramble, Declaw, and Redemption. Otherwise, you're a lot better off with the other variation frontline instead. Eventually, in both of these variations, you want to cap out with all legendaries, so your board will eventually look something like this. Alright, so next up is going to be BEL'VETH. So again, one of the most broken hero augments in the game right now is Back for Blood with BEL'VETH. It's the one that gives BEL'VETH a lot of Omnivamp. This will enable BEL'VETH to basically never die and go infinite. And with BEL'VETH, because BEL'VETH is a threat, she doesn't really depend on any specific traits, which makes this comp extremely flexible. So you could literally play any other unit you 2-star and it will be just fine. BEL'VETH will just 1v9 their entire team. But typically your board will sometimes look like this. A lot of times, if you hit your first 2-star BEL'VETH, you could just tech in a second BEL'VETH as well, because the hero augment will benefit both of your BEL'VETHs and they will both do infinite damage. So finally, in every set there is the Bill Gates comp, and the Bill Gates comp of this set is going to revolve around Aphelios, Urgot, and Fiddlesticks. So your level 9 board is generally going to look something like this. If you have 2 Urgots, you just play 2 Urgots, 2 Fiddlesticks, you just play 2 Fiddlesticks. You always want to play around Aphelios because Aphelios is the strongest unit in the game right now currently. And if the weather is good, you can play Janet as well. You generally only want to play towards this comp if you have a very high roll early, mid, and late game. So for example, if you get like a 4 heist cash out into a win streak into level 9, you can play towards this. If you get a full win streak into high-end shopping or level up, you play towards this. Or if you get a really high roll SAMIRA mid and late game and you win every single fight and you go 9, you could eventually cap out into Aphelios as well. Same for BEL'VETH, because BEL'VETH uses very similar items to Aphelios, and it is a very smooth transition to Aphelios level 9 because you're playing around threats anyway. swap out the BEL'VETH for Aphelios, and you're good to go. So this sums up my 13.3 flex guide with the new hero augment changes. If you guys found this video helpful, I would really appreciate it if you guys subscribe to my channel on YouTube or follow me on Twitch, and I will see you guys next time.